really annoying thing with YouTube that when you do a live stream on your phone, the default options are different than the PC, and you can't seem to set them to always default to the same stuff for each thing. So if that makes sense, what I mean is like the settings that I've got saved that are perfect for like, my layout and all that sort of stuff. How I have that set up on the PC for doing a stream on the PC, you can't get the mobile to just automatically have those settings. And I don't think you can even do some of the settings without actually going onto a PC, which also means that if I do a YouTube stream from the mobile, a lot of the settings I just can't get right anyway without, unless you have a PC nearby. So again, the fact that YouTube likes to do everything via mobile now, not so much desktop, but a lot of the things just don't work is really annoying. So anyway, I think I've got that set up right now. Yep, that's the settings I normally use. So if I just close any tabs I had open, I don't need even browser tabs, I just need stuff that's on the screen that's going to clutter it up. Go back to a white screen so it's nice and bright. All right, good day, Stampy Dragon. And I still don't get that said hi thing. Is that a thing when you join the chat, it just lets you click it to say said hi? Because a lot of the time, loads of when people join the streams, it always says the person's name said hi, and sometimes they never say anything else. Ah, right, okay, so that's just a feature I've never actually seen, like the other way around, if you like. Probably Fred's grey man as in how bleak everything might really be if everything breaks down. So you'd want to actually think of the worst case scenario, like Fred's is. But otherwise, I'm trying to think like what, because Day of the Triffids, not the film, but the TV series version, the old TV series version, not the CGI bad version, but the original version of Day of the Triffids from the 80s, the BBC one, that's actually a very realistic post-apocalypse thing because it's all about, like what people would do for fuel and everything when there's no longer like, any of the supply chain going. Although that's basically, like set a couple of weeks, a bit like 28 Days Later, because again, 28 Days Later actually rips the plot from Day of the Triffids off. That is, so it's set, in the immediate thing, but there's an unofficial sequel to it, as in it's not written by John Wyndham, but I think it was written with permission of his estate or whatever. And that's called The Night of the Triffids, and that's quite an interesting, like, sequel to it, because it's set, like decades later. A bit like what they're doing with 28 Years Later, funnily enough, So, that sort of thing where it's more how society's changed in the meantime. Which one's right at your door? Let me look that one up. Because there's a load of these films I've probably seen, and now I just can't remember what they're called or whatever. I'm going to put my nice headphones somewhere where I don't knock them about on my desk. Can I just hang them off of my headphones stand? Yeah, they hang off of there, all right. Right, cool. I've probably seen Right at Your Door before. I didn't particularly like that film, but I don't think it's bad. It's just, that's the one, isn't it, where the bloke, like, puts all the tarp and all that up around his house, isn't it? But then, I don't know if I want to do the, like, ending plot twist or whatever, but, yeah, although technically I suppose the ending plot twist actually kind of does make sense, doesn't it? Because I collect military and gas masks are one of the things at one point, not anymore, you used to be able to get really cheaply. As in, like they used to be that a lot of the military surplus gas masks used to be ones that you could get for like $20, £20. But speaking of like other milcert, like I've got an FS on my desk now because I actually tidied my desk up today because I bought 2 stands for the TV. So I could, like the TV monitor thing, so I could have that actually at a good height. Whereas the annoying thing was before, because the legs on this TV barely raise it up above desk level, like they're like that high little legs on this telly, which I guess is good for stability. But it's really annoying because it means that you're, if you've got it on a desk, anything on the desk will block part of the view of the screen. So I bought 2 of them because obviously, if you bought a really big one, it means it's hard to fit on the desk. By having 2 separate ones, I've got a nice gap in the middle. So I bought one for each leg of the TV, like these little mini table kind of platform raisers. They're actually called TV raisers. So yeah, I bought some of those. So yeah, FS knives are always cool. In before somebody goes, oh, do you need a license for that? But yeah, like I said, FS knives I absolutely love to bits. They're not like practical utility knives. These are pure combat, like killing knives. They're British Army World War II originally. This is like a modern reproduction of one made by one of the factories that could make them under license. But they're just like very well balanced, killing knives. I think you're meant to technically hold them like that with an FS. You hold it with like a loose grip, but they're for going straight into the neck and punching outwards. They're killing daggers essentially. My oldest mask, as I've said loads of times, don't actually know because I've got a few different masks that are from before World War II but after World War One. And with some of those, because the dates and everything have worn off, I don't strictly know which would be the oldest. If they're all masks from around the 1930s, I don't particularly know which is the earliest production date on any of them. So I've got some interwar, World War II masks. It depends if you've been exposed to the fallout, Grey Man. But at the same time, having a bath or shower would actually be good if you had the stuff that completely, gets all the oils and shit off your skin, like a really strong soap, not the type of soaps you'd normally have in shower gel or like bath liquid because they'd be too abrasive on the skin. But something like that would actually be good in a bath or shower because it means that you can get absolutely everything off that might have fallout dust, contaminating your skin. Also, if Hype's on in a minute, I'll ask him if he can translate this. Otherwise, I'm going to do it tonight by taking a picture and doing it that way. But as this was the bag, the either the TF1 or the MF1B or whatever it was called came in, I want to use this to see which brand of it particularly was, because one guy said it's not a TF1, it's an MF1B. But because there's no identifying marks on the mask, you can't tell that without apparently, translating the bag. So I thought I'd do that because look, I'm glad I didn't throw this away, actually, if it's the only way I can find out of, checking which manufacturer it was. Yeah, like I say in planes, that's what my point was. You definitely want to get rid of the stuff on you after you get in, like, a decontamination thing. Because like you're saying, the clothes you have on and anything in your skin and hair, would like get on you, wouldn't it? That's what I'm saying, that you want to get that off as soon as possible. Because there's either the risk that you then ingest some of the stuff or inhale it, if it's little bits of dust, like if you wipe somewhere and then casually do that without thinking about it, you can get stuff inside your body that way. Or just anything that's giving off beta or gamma rays is going to be doing constant damage to you if it's just sitting on your skin. So, because you can sometimes see quite interesting pictures where people have beta burns from fallout, where beta or beta, whichever way it's pronounced, where it's landed on somebody, they've not got it off immediately, then they have like giant red marks around where that little bit of fallout landed on their clothing. All right, Rote? Yeah, annoyingly, because I'm streaming on mobile phone as well, I can't actually do a translation of this live using the camera, because if I do that, then it stops the stream. YouTube doesn't let you Alt-Tab essentially on mobile phones, and I don't have a second phone handy to turn on or tablet or whatever, so I'll just take a picture of this and use the translate app after this stream. But these are just eczema gloves. They're not like military or good ones at all, Rajiv. The finger and thumb on the left and right one are smartphone compatible with touchscreens, so that's actually good with these. But yeah, the entire point of these is my eczema is getting quite bad at this time of year. So what I can do with these is I can put loads of the eczema cream on my hands, use a mouse and keyboard and the phone, and not smear cream over everything, which is why I normally don't put it on. No worries, Roger. Like I said, I've been saying about them before, these are actually really good in that sense. There's loads of different brands you can get of these, but it's the first time I've actually seriously bothered doing it. And I'm really glad I have, because I've, said, my fingers at the start of this week, if I got exposed to the ammonia type stuff, it would actually cause my fingers to physically burn from the gas, because there were so many, little cuts and abrasions on them. Absolutely ages planes. Yeah, what I've actually bought, which might sound a bit weird, but to me it makes perfect sense, it's not to wear out the house, is I bought another balaclava, because I do have a balaclava, but I've not seen it in years. So I bought a cheap balaclava, and I'm specifically going to do that so I can put eczema cream all around my face, because I get eczema a bit around my nose there. You can see a bit on my forehead there. But the worst place I get it is behind my ears. So what I want to do is get a balaclava that, you know, covers all of my face except for, you know, like the mouth and eyes. So I can just smear eczema cream all over my face and then, you know, sit with headphones on doing stuff and not risk, you know, getting the headphones all gunky with cream. That's also useful as well when I shave my head, because when I never have dandruff. When people used to go, oh, you have really bad dandruff. When I shave my head and I can actually, like, you know, put cream on my scalp properly, I never have dandruff, but I get it really badly, you know, when my eczema flares up when I've got hair, because there's not even really the shampoos that you can rub into your scalp. You know, I find I have to be bold to treat it properly. I didn't answer your question. I didn't see a question, Greyman. What was it? Let me get the chat back up. But oh, are we at risk of nuclear war, or is it fear-mongering? I personally think fear-mongering. Like, I think you'd be more likely to get nuclear war type shit with Pakistan and India, because as much as like Putin goes ook ook, I'm gonna nuke every like fucking 5 minutes. If he does that, he's dead, his entire family's dead, and everything else. So I think the actual reality of somewhere like Russia starting a nuclear war, because they just keep using it as a threat. Like, don't give Ukraine this set of weapons, or we're gonna nuke you. It's like, you're not gonna fucking nuke anyone, because then you're getting nuked. So yeah, I'd think you're more at risk of a nuclear like strike type thing, either with India, Pakistan, or a rogue state like North Korea. But then again, they wouldn't do that because then they'd get wiped out. So, but again, countries want nukes because then they won't be invaded. Like Saddam would have never been invaded if he had nukes. You know, that's why dictators want nukes. And like any actual country, I think it makes sense that why they want nukes at their end. Because like Ukraine wouldn't have been invaded by Russia if they still had their Soviet stockpile. But they gave it up from both a guarantee of Russia and the US and Britain that either side would defend them if the others attacked them. And then Russia attacked them, one of the signers of the, I think it was Budapest Memorandum. And then fucking Britain and America said, oh, yeah, not our problem. If you're asking this question, Greyman, it's not showing up. All right, Soviet Gaming, Fenrir, say hi. Yeah, Diddy. Yeah, it's not baby oil, Rajiv. It's not baby oil. It's just, it's E45, whatever I'm using. This question, or should I get the C50? Only the, or should I get the C50 just showed up. So YouTube's censoring what you're saying, Greyman. The C50 is good, but what was the other option? Yeah, the best cream I've ever had, Rajiv, for eczema is actually one that's not allowed to be sold in the UK anymore. Because apparently it was one that actually had a steroid in but wasn't being sold like as a pharmaceutical thing, you know, like behind the counter. It was a Chinese branded one. But I found that really, really effective personally. So I've seen on Amazon there's somebody selling it again from outside the UK. So I put an order in to see if I can get it, because technically it's probably breaking some rules, but it works well for me as an eczema cream. But yeah, E45 is pretty good, but this one was like an actual proper steroid cream. And again, you used to be able to buy it fine, but the government banned it at one point because apparently, yeah, it contained some steroid which, you know, shouldn't be able to be sold unless it was sold by a pharmacy or whatever, you know, and it was just sold on Amazon and eBay sort of thing as cream. Yeah, I've used it before, Planes. It's all right, but I find it does burn my skin a bit when it cracks too much. Like one of my mates uses it constantly on his hands. But yeah, at the moment, I'm finding E45 is better because it doesn't sting too much now that, you know, but like I said, it's already, my skin is already a hell of a lot better from a few days of, you know, like once or twice a day for a couple of hours, putting the cream on, putting the gloves on. I also found it was really useful putting these gloves on if I'm ripping up cardboard or anything like that, because that tends to dry my skin out doing that. You know, or like little paper cut things cut the skin back open. So I found, you know, by the gloves, they do two things. One, they're good for keeping the cream in and, you know, not smearing it everywhere. And the other reason these are good is, like I said, if there's other stuff that can keep irritating your skin that you know, then doesn't happen if you've got these gloves on. Yeah, coconut oil's good, but the annoying thing I found when I used that is because it was obviously oily as the name suggested, I'd find if I used it on my scalp or face, that would be the type of stuff that would occasionally get on my glasses and would be really hard to clean off. I've done a video on it years ago, Greyman. At the moment, I don't actually have one set up. Like I was saying, because I've got 2 rucksacks I could do bug out bags with. But like I said, there's one that would be like a short-term Greyman style rucksack that would be used, you know, like in short term. And the other one I have is like, you know, I have a bag that I could fill up, like if you're going to be made homeless, that sort of thing, you know, but I've not actually used them in a while because I've been using the bags for other things, so I don't have a ready to grab one. I have one I could set up pretty quickly, but the problem is whenever I buy rucksacks, if they're good rucksacks, I end up using them for general purpose stuff, not having as a bug out bag because they end up getting used for everyday things. And we've got a weirdo on, so I'll get rid of him. That one, that is a Soviet, let's see if I can remember the right name right. It's actually on that poster that you, yeah, it's the one there. I think it's like PTM1 or something it's called. I have 2 versions. I've got that white cotton version and like the blue cotton version. And they were the Soviet really cheap. I've got a question for you in a second, Hype, rather than me using Google Translate in a moment. I'll show you the thing in a minute. We're on about the TF1 and MF1 because I found where the bag is, so you might be able to say which factory it's from. I definitely prefer Molly to Alice just because it clips on easily. The problem I find with the Alice stuff is it's like you have to bend the stuff in, don't you, into the belt. Tried searching what Soviet. Again, it's one where if the stock's gone now, good luck finding them because again, it's like a lot of surplus stuff. They were just like the Soviets, like even before the GP5, it was like, you know, they're really cheap kind of fallout mask because they were designed, I think, so people could knit them at home kind of thing. So again, most of the ones that were sold, I had to buy directly from Estonia or somewhere, you know, where somebody, I guess, had found a box of them. Yeah, speaker enjoyment is going very well. Thank you. Like I said, I've got the Theo on my desk over there. I'm actually later on, so it doesn't get knocked off my desk, even though it should be quite solid where it is. I'm going to get a couple of little bits of blue tack and put them under each of the feet just so it, you know, doesn't slide as easily if any, like, you know, because I don't like with little lightweight things like that. When I go to push the power button in, I have to put one hand on the back of it so it doesn't push along when I push the power button. As in high-end headphone enjoyment planes. Right, Hype, do you know which factory this one's from? If I do that, so hopefully the Chinese sort of characters or whatever, with his heavy speakers that nearly broke his back. Any idea which particular factory this is for the TF1 or MF1B? That way I can just update the video stuff with it. I could put it through the translate thing, but I can't do that while I'm streaming. There's also that one on that side, but I assume that's like the quality assurance thing. Oh, will it flip back the right way around if I do it like this or not? I don't think... Actually, what I can do, hang on, is if I lift my phone up, do that, do this, that should be the right way around because it's then doing the... Because I said, I think that logo there is just like their quality seal thing, isn't it? But, I'll hold that there for a minute. Like I said, there's that usual problem with AliExpress where a lot of the sellers don't say which factory it is. All right, Jingsheng. But yeah, like I said, in a lot of the factories, a lot of these sellers don't show the, like, say, the actual very specific mask, do they? Okay, that's interesting. But like I said, this particular one is in, yeah, this particular one, like I said, is actually 40mm NATO, which is great. It's not even GOS like most of them are. Heavy protection. All right, cool. But yeah, so I'm assuming the person that was arguing with me if it was a TF1 or MF1B would actually not know himself. But yeah. But yeah, like I was saying, this particular one, like I said, I've actually linked on that video to the version I bought. But like I said, this is one where it makes a proper seal with 40mm NATO filters. And not like it's just a Goss thread where they go in well enough up to an O-ring. Like it's definitely a Stanag like tilt to it because the Stanag filters go in buttery smooth. And I've tried it with several. Ah, thank you very much, Hype. Yeah, right, that is very good to know. But like I said, I'll do a translated. I'll take a picture at some point and then send you a crop one of that and also run it through Google Translate. Yeah, well, again, like I said, this one, Manotopia, or Manliptopia, whichever one it is. This particular one's from AliExpress. But like I said, the problem is with the Chinese stuff is you get genuinely good Chinese stuff, and then you get like this piece of dog shit over here. That Hype was saying isn't even technically sold in China domestically. They're just sold on the knockoff market. These fucking, like, you know, like this is like the one that's like the pewter. So the pewter one was bollocks, and this one's also bollocks because of its awful thread. Because with this one, I've just noticed as well, there's not even a fucking O-ring in that bit. So they neither provided an O-ring there. I mean, there is technically with this entire valve assembly a bit of rubber, so I guess you could say that's an O-ring. But that's not how an O-ring works. You normally have a separate one. Yeah, this is specifically an export mask that's crap. Yeah. So, but yeah, this particular mask, like I said, this bit's comfortable. That's all right. But yeah, this, even when used to the PAPR it was bundled with, the PAPR is good. But this particular mask doesn't even work under positive pressure because the seal is so bad on like the filter port and everything. But yeah, so like I was saying with the Chinese stuff, there's stuff like this I would not recommend. But like I was saying, there's other stuff where if I get something from AliExpress and it's good, I'll just generate an affiliate link and put it in the description of whatever video. And then that way, you know, that's me saying I've used this and I like it. Also, because Amazon lost some rubber glue I bought and I've had to order some more, you know, I got a refund and I've had to order some more. That's why I've not done a video yet on that other Chinese mask, you know, doing a video fixing the 40mm port on it so it can't unscrew. So when the rubber glue comes, I am going to do a video just showing people if you get one of these and you've got that weird port that unscrews like mine does, you know, here's how you can make it properly airtight and sealed or it's not going to come undone with a filter. Civil war in the UK, it depends entirely what it's about. I think in the UK, you're more likely to have dodgy riots like we've had before, rather than the full-on civil war. Like, there'd be certain areas I would not want to live in, you know, if some sort of ethnic tension or whatever kicked off between different groups and all that sort of shit. So, do I think there's going to be some sort of big civil war in the UK? No. Do I think if you're in certain areas, shit could go really badly if, you know, some sort of Southport type riots kick off again or anything like that, where one particular group doesn't like another group, and if you're in the wrong area at the wrong time, you know, are you going to get firebombed or beaten up or something like that? Because, yeah, annoyingly, the SGE masks, I wouldn't mind doing a review of those, but I've never really seen them in the UK for sale, or at least not at good prices. But yeah, as otherwise, I kind of want to do a video on one of the SGEs, but let me Google it. I might have done a video on those, but again, with a lot of the Chinese ones, because they have slightly different names, they're ones where sometimes if I search the thing, I'll know which mask you're on about. But often, like a bit like how there's FMJs and like MFJ or whatever it is, depending on if it's export or PLA use or whatever else. Okay, which one's coming up? Is this technically the FMJ09? If so, yes, I do like that. I've got one, but it's not in this room. But Hype sent me one of those a while ago, and yes, it is a very nice mask. I like it. I also like the one that takes the like, you know, the is this one that has the concave filters, or is it a different one? But yeah, those are nice. They're comfortable. You know, I have no issues with them. I didn't like the one with the drinking tube. So on the drinking tube, I had leaked air through it. But the ones without the drinking tube, I actually like. It might have been the TF12D. Again, a lot of these I can't remember unless I go back to do the video, like look at the videos I did on them, because yeah, I've got a video on the TF12D. Yeah, the TF12D I like as well. Yes, I've got both the 09, haven't I, and the 12D you sent me before. So yeah, I like both of those. They're pretty similar though, aren't they? Other than the filter style thing. One's got the C50 style filter, so it sits closer to the mask. The others, I think, standard 40mm. I think I might have one of those Chinese masks behind me somewhere. Which particular Far Cry? When you say working Far Cry, do you mean with the video games Far Cry? Which one? Like when you say Far Cry 1, do you mean the OG Far Cry, the Jack Carver one, with the mutants in it? Or do you mean all of the fucking sequels they've done of Far Cry that probably have gas masks in them now and then? I've played some of the Far Cry games, not others. The best one is Far Cry 2, only if it's modded to get around some of the annoying gameplay balance they did in the original Far Cry. But Far Cry 2 with mods, I think, is the best one in just terms of the African setting is actually quite interesting when you get past the malaria, jank, and all that in the base games balance. All right, I'll bear that in mind, Greyman. Thank you. But like I said, it's one of those things. I might just buy one for myself at some point rather than being gifted one or whatever. But it's one that's like I was saying, it might be a case that, yeah, on eBay people actually stock them. But yeah, let me have a look, because one of those Chinese masks I'm sure I had behind me. I mean, up here where I was digging around to see what shit was behind me earlier, where I was looking for something specific. Here's a Soviet mask I really visually like, but like I was saying, I think is bollocks. If it had an oral nasal cup, half the problems of this mask would go away. Not the awful straps, that problem wouldn't go away, but the actual bollocks of how much it fogs up because there's no oral nasal cup in it. The PBF had an oral nasal cup in it. Again, I'm really annoyed they didn't do like a 40mm version of the PBF rather than the cheek filter one, you know, just like the PBF face piece with the oral nasal cup and then either a bottom or a side filter adapter. So yeah, there's this bollocks mask. But the and here is the Scott FRR that we were on about. I need to give this a dust wipe out. As you can see, this is a bit dusty, but this compared to the GSR, as I was saying in the conversation with Hype earlier, is actually it's most of the dust on the outside. If most of the dust is on the outside, I can wear that. However, there's an Avon filter behind me, which might be. Which mask is this attached to? Oh, no, that's the C50 that's rolled back there. Where the C50 was there, I was wondering then if that was my other kind of Avon filter that I was on about constantly. Romanian gas mask that's actually good. Oh, before Sheila wants to fall down the back, and I don't want it to do that. GSR, like I said, GSR is a very meh mask for me. The some versions are good, some aren't. Before Sheila, which is brilliant. I swear I saw one of these Chinese masks on here somewhere. Can't be any further back because there's physically not room for it to fall anywhere. The FRR I'm going to put down there for a minute so I don't lose it. Oh, here's the fucking pewter. The pewter's here. My least favourite mask ever, even worse than that other one. So yeah, I've rediscovered where this piece of shit is. I'll do a video on this again, like the worst gas mask in my collection. Oh yeah, did it never have an intake valve there? It probably didn't, but again, that's one of the things that I can't even remember being that bad in it, but it probably was. I'll go to the chat properly in a minute, by the way, when I've just checked to see if the particular mask I'm thinking of is actually on here or not. But I'm sure, again, I saw the other day. Oh yeah, the cool radio as well. Is there still any battery charge in this? Yeah, there is. I need to charge this up though. I don't know if I've still got this set to the local airfield frequency, so if this starts calling stuff out in a minute, then I am still on my airfield's frequency. Roadie helmet. Put that on. Yeah, the airfield is still operating. That is still the right frequency. That's actually surprisingly how well that battery's held charged, because I've not had that radio on in ages. Oh, it's right here. Ah, yeah, this was the one with the drinking tube that leaks air. Yes, so this version with the drinking tube I don't like, because this one has an air leak where the drinking tube is. Otherwise, it's a good mask. But yeah, the 09, the one that doesn't have the drinking tube is good. The one that takes the whatever 12 it was is also good. So yeah, that was the mask I was looking for, because I knew I'd seen one of these Chinese masks sitting there recently. So yeah, that was that one, but this is the one that's not airtight anyway. So the pewter, I don't need it right now. As tempting as it is to just go and throw this against the wall and break it, I'm not going to do that, because it's useful for doing videos talking about how badly designed this mask is. You just sit there. Anyway, we'll go back to what we were talking about. What am I doing? I was looking through different gas masks. PMK2 is not a good mask. I'm going to turn that off because that's going to get annoying. Yeah, well, it makes sense why that one didn't make it to mass production, because, yeah, like I said, the drinking tube is the problem. Because some masks have quite good drinking tube systems where I think there's a couple of different valves in them that, you know, like it won't ever let air through unless a couple of checks are passed with it. Whereas I think that mask is one that, yeah, as soon as there's not a drinking tube physically tight on the little drinking tube nozzle, then air gets through. Right. Let's take this filter off of the Chinese mask, as in the Chinese mask that's in Stanag, because there we go, we've got that French filter, the CFF2. Put that on this mask because it actually goes on. I'd be kind of interested in seeing how well the concave filter fits. That might actually go on all right. The PMK's drinking system is the same one from the M17, actually. It's literally identical. The Soviets copied it directly. But it's, yeah, I don't think it's a good system. I'd agree with you there. Right, oh, I need to take my glasses off. That would help. Yugo M1 is not great unless you like it melting on you. That's so tight. Let's get these straps as I want them. The straps are a bit too tough for my liking now. These masks. As in, I always feel like I'm going to damage the buckle when I tighten them, because they don't ever want to move very well. Person talking in Cyrillic, hello. Yeah, there you go. Again, the only thing I don't like, and it might be my face shape with this mask, is my chin always digs into the bit at the bottom. And I don't know why, because I'm sure it's not meant to do that. It doesn't matter which size I've tried with these either, the GSR and the FRR. So what I mean by that is my chin with this mask always pushes into the bit there. So you see where these two bits overlap? That bit always pushes into my chin. Now, I know in theory you could probably have that under there, but I don't think it ever seems to work for me. So yeah, I have that annoying thing where for me personally, my chin then always pushes sort of hard into the like, you know, the weird like moisture capture thing they have in there. Victor loves asbestos, does he? Yeah, again, cheek filter masks, in my opinion, died out for a reason. Again, I don't think they're as bad as I used to, you know, think they were. And people like Bots have done very good arguments. Bot Stowo, if I'm pronouncing his name right, that's always a name I find hard to pronounce. He's actually made quite a convincing argument on why the M17 is a good design. And he has actually changed my opinion a lot on it, but I still personally don't like. Personally, I don't like cheek filters, but I don't think they're as bad as they used to be. But like I said, I totally see why cheek filter masks went out of style because, you know, just the easiness of having a screw-on replaceable canister, or even if you're going to go the style of the GSR, because to me, the M50 and GSR are like the successors of cheek filter masks, because they kind of have those more compact cheek kind of designs. It's just the filter locks on from the outside, which makes a lot more sense because it's a lot less of a pain in the ass to change the filters. 19th century businessman. Oh, well, like somebody that's going to scam you. I would like all of the oil, and yes. How about you buy this from me, sir? And no is not an answer. Yeah, I guess the idea wasn't it? You put them in once and then just basically, yeah, you just keep this in here and you don't fuck about with it. Right, anyway, I'm going to try and catch up with the comments by putting my glasses back on so I can read properly. I can go back there. But yeah, like I said, the FRR is certainly better build quality than the GSR. It's just, for me, it's a shame that it's just a shame the which worst gas mask is the worst? I just showed you that one, the Pewter. That is the worst gas mask I own, the Pewter, wherever I put that. Back up there. Because I've been over this one for a couple of reasons why it's so awful. Oh, look, 2 of the straps have pinged off without me doing anything. Isn't that funny? The shitty fucking design of these straps with the buckles that don't hold straps on properly. But yeah, this mask is made from, one, a material that's too flexible. So when there's any weight of a filter or anything attached, it does this. You can see as well that the mask hasn't kept its own shape properly. I mean, I know it's been crushed, but that's a problem with rubber overall. It is a comfortable rubber, but comfortable doesn't mean much if you're going to be breathing in gas. And like I said, it's just a case that the straps ping off under their own force because they use a stupid buckle system that doesn't keep straps on properly. So this system is like the opposite of friction. That when you tighten it, the more friction means the straps are more likely to ping off, because it's not one of those systems where the more friction there is, like, you know, the tighter it gets, the more it pushes into itself, which is how you design a good friction system. This one does the opposite. The tighter you make it, the more likely it is your straps are just going to ping off. So if you've got a gap, the more you tighten it to try and get rid of that gap, the more likely the straps are just going to come off completely. So there's that. So yeah, this is the worst gas mask I own, because that and the other Chinese one that's very similar to it, this one, these are like the cursed Chinese designs, these two. Both of these are just shit. This one, because it doesn't make an airtight seal with a filter, and it doesn't matter if it's GOST or NATO or you use a PAPR system, like the seal is so bad at the filter port that, you know, air leaks in regardless. I'm actually wondering if the exhale valve is even working properly in that. I might have to open that up. Yeah, I'll do a video opening all of this up, I think, because I'm interested in seeing if this exhale valve even closes properly on this mask. I'm wondering if it's one of these masks where the exhale valve, there we go, I've taken that off. Now, is that even a good connection there? Because I reckon this might be a really bad exhale valve that also lets gas in through the exhale valve port. See how bad it was. Also, oh, you are fucking shitting me. I think, anyway. I'm just trying to shine a light in there like that. But looking at that, I reckon there is a fucking gap there between where the intake port is and the mask. So air is always going to fucking flow into the mask there. So this might be an even fucking dumber design looking at that. Without getting a bright torch, I can't quite see, but see the light coming through there, look. I reckon this mask doesn't even have, like, even if you had a filter on that sealed properly and the exhale valve was working properly, I reckon there's just a fucking gap there in the mask. Hang on a second. See if I can get that in there. Just seeing if I can get the light physically. No, it's not going to work using that light. Again, it's getting the angle right with the thing to see. But I reckon... It's a shame I don't have a really bright light handy that's not the one on my phone, because otherwise I could put a torch through there. But yeah, I reckon that you can actually see into part of the mask through that. But again, like, without getting a torch to do it, I can't check. So yeah, because when I was doing that just now, I reckon you could actually see a bit of light. Yeah, like there, look, just there. See that? If I get the angle right. I don't think that's like a plastic voice diaphragm. I think that's actually a physical fucking gap between that bit and the inside of the mask. No, they're in another room, Hype. I know exactly where they are, sadly, but they're not in this room because I don't normally use them when I'm just doing the stream. So they're sat in a place so I don't lose them. So sadly, they're not handy. But yeah, I reckon that. Although saying that, it has got a voice diaphragm looking thing in there. So maybe that is a plastic diaphragm. Maybe I'm being too harsh on this mask, but it might be that that is actually a voice diaphragm there, because I have seen some masks that have like a diaphragm between the two bits. So it could be that, you know, that bit there, it could be that that is actually a plastic voice diaphragm. So I might be getting that completely wrong, but I reckon there is definitely something, as well as that filter port being shit, up with why air seeps in so easily, even with a PAPR. Because obviously that umbrella valve isn't particularly good. I mean, some masks have two sets of exhale valves, so, you know, there's... Because that one, again, it looks flush, but it's got such a small little lip on it, it could be that... I know with some masks as well, sometimes the exhale valves fold in the wrong way if they're not particularly good. But yeah, if I put my thumb there, the entire thing peels off on the other side. Yeah. If let me get the pewter open as well, if that cover just comes off. Might need a knife for this. Because again, the pewter is fucking dog shit, and I know it is. I'm just wondering, because again, the pewter has the exact same kind of voice diaphragm in the same place. I know technically one of these is a rip-off of the Draeger Explorer, and one is a rip-off of another mask. Like a Sfaciani thing, I think it's on the gas mask wiki. But these two masks are so similar. I think they're kind of both rip-offs of the same mask. So, hang on a second. How is that still being held down? Because the front just prizes off with a screwdriver. It might just be... Oh, well, I don't really care if I fucking damage this thing, because it's shit and doesn't work anyway. It's just... Does it then pull backwards, maybe? Yeah, I reckon it's now I have to get a screwdriver in that bit and push it that way. Unless I can... So it just lifts out. I will try and catch up with the comments in a minute, I'm afraid, but yeah. Just if you had a question for me, repeat it in a minute when I'm actually looking at the chat again. Yeah, I'm going to need more leverage to get that out. Because, yeah, that pulls out partially, this cover, but then it's like something that's still gripping it in that bit. Maybe they've also put plastic glue on it. But, yeah, this one definitely has a voice diaphragm in it. Assuming that there's even a bit of plastic in there, but I'm pretty certain there is. So it might be, you might be able to see that there, I don't know. If I hold it, yeah, you see the light coming through there? You might just about be able to see that on the camera, even with the slant sort of in the way. But yeah, it might be that that other mask has a voice diaphragm, so that might not be the issue with it. But anyway, that other mask, like I said, is dog shit. As in, like I said, that there's so many things wrong with these masks that, you know, even if you fix one of the issues, there'd probably be gas getting in another way. You know, like I said, there are very similar Chinese panoramic masks to this, like the MF14, that are actually good. This isn't one of them. It's kind of weird, because if you look at this, you might just think this is an MF14 in yellow, but it's not. You know, because from that angle, it is basically an MF14 style setup. But no, it is. It's definitely not an MF14. The oral nasal cup would probably be quite good to harvest from this, even if it's a shit mask. Because the oral nasal cup, you might be able to just retrofit into a Soviet mask, you know, another Soviet mask, and then actually have an oral nasal cup in it. Hang on. There we go. So that comes out really easy. Then you can see, like, yeah, that what might be a voice diaphragm type thing down there. Unsure at the moment. Because if I hold that up to the light, no light comes through. That's what's really weird. So I can see the light one way coming through it, but not the other way. Yeah, this entire sort of assembly is really weird on this mask. Also, I guess these ports are where they potentially have the 3M style filters on them, and they're just not cut out because they've got weird, like, rubber nozzles on the inside that aren't attached to anything, which again is weird with this entire mask setup. Right, but anyway, like I said, I will look at the comments in a minute once I have. Yeah, so this is just where I was wondering, could you possibly somehow get one of these and use it to bodge into something like this? And actually have a fucking decent version of the PMK. That actually sits not too badly in there if you, like, reseated it every time you did it without even attaching it to anything. So I just want to see in a second, and then I'll read your comments, if just wondering if there's any way of actually getting it around the voice diaphragms, bit of rubber there, but no, that's sort of like it's set in a different way. It's not one where that actually, the chin hole as well still means that the exhale valve is accessible and sweat would still go down this. So that's actually quite useful. Right, hang on a second. I'll put this on and I'll go to the comments once. Ow. So, yeah, I might have this way to tighten my fucking head. That's kind of in a weird squish position, but it's not really uncomfortable. So that's still sort of pressurizing. But that does stop this mask from fogging up. So yeah, that's actually quite weird. The GP7 and PMK, yeah, if they just put a very basic oral nasal cup in them, would immediately be better masks than they are. But of course they didn't, because this is Soviets cost-cutting at their finest, these masks. Yeah, like I said, with an oral nasal cup in there, that's actually would be a surprisingly better mask than the commercial sort of Soviet ones were. You know, other than the straps being awful, and this huge peripheral weird seal thing that always gets in the way of your eyes. Like I said before, because again, I can't get over what big the peripheral seal is on this mask. GP7s and PMKs all have this, like, really, really big like, why do you need a peripheral seal on these masks? That is, because it's almost like this mask, if you didn't have straps on it, would almost be like a helmet mask. And I wonder if that's kind of what they did. Do I play the Stalker games? Yes, I do. Is there a really easy way of taking the straps off one of these masks completely? Like removing the metal bit from the buckles? Which I'm not going to do now because it would take ages. But yeah, I'm just wondering with one of these, if you had no straps on it, if that you could actually use that like the sort of PMG's face seal, like fold it outwards, and if the mask would actually work better. Because again, I know why this is here. It's because it's designed to be where, you know, it stops your head moving forwards in. But again, I don't get why it's just so bloody big, because like it partially covers the eyepieces, how much this pushes in. I know it's probably because when your face is on it, it's going to push up like that and not droop down. But like I said, the thing I really hate with these is that that bit almost keeps going into your eyes because of how wide that is. So I know you could probably also get some scissors and cut it apart, but that seems like really wrong to get a mask and start cutting the rubber apart to make a better fit. Anyway, I'll put the Brody helmet back on with my glasses and I will go to your comments. So again, if somebody had a question, repeat it, because if the chat's moved too much, where I was fucking about with stuff, I won't have seen your comments. So get the OG World War I, World War II helmet on that I actually think is genuinely good. As much as people laugh at Brody helmets, by the way, they are actually good. Like the steel quality in these was actually good. Like they did protect your you know, head from quite high velocity shrapnel for a steel part. Like obviously the main thing of them is that they don't cover much of your brow there. But they aren't a problem for looking up, looking down, like with that. And again, if I had this headband a bit wider, this would sit a bit lower on my head than it does here. But I don't think, again, that Brody helmets are actually bad helmets. Like, I can understand why everybody moved away from helmets like this. But these aren't, kettle helms essentially aren't bad helmets. They are designed, and again, the whole rim going around makes sense, because the whole idea with this was that when shrapnel comes down and you go to ground, it gives you a wider area that shrapnel won't pierce your shoulders or like your back or whatever. Anyway, let me get the chat back up and I'll catch up with that. And I bet my cup of tea's gone cold now. Because again, I'm 52 minutes into this stream and I boiled the kettle before I started the stream. When you say the M1 gas mask, which M1 do you mean? Because I hate the US numbering system. So is it an American one? Or do you mean the Yugoslavian M1? Which M1 do you mean? That's why I don't like the M system. Right, anyway, have a good evening, Hype. Sorry if you've already gone by the time I saw your message. Right, let me move the mouse around and scroll up the chat. And right. Greyman said, some people during COVID lockdown wore gas masks. Did you do something similar? I had my gas mask with me at all times. Actually. If I had to go shopping and stuff like that, I wore a half face respirator. I didn't bother with the full face gas mask for supermarkets, but I had like one of the proper rubber half face masks, and my mum did as well. And like, you know, any of my family members that went shopping, because the thing was with COVID is that most of us might have been all right, but we were caring for other people that would have been very vulnerable to COVID. You know, like even today where everything's known a lot more about it, like people that still probably would have died or been, you know, hospitalized if they caught it. So you didn't want to catch it and then pass it on to them. So yeah, every one of us when we went shopping or whatever had a rubber, like, you know, one of the proper rubber masks with free, like the 3M style filters, or like the, you know, like the filter in the front, that type. But anyway, the rubber ones with straps rather than, you know, the shitty little dust mask type ones or the surgical masks. And yeah, none of us caught COVID during that period. Some of us got COVID when the restrictions were a lot less and nobody worried about it as much, and when we'd been vaccinated. But none of us caught COVID at the time when we were taking all the precautions. So there you go. Right. You have an ICBM key. Does anyone want to buy it? What for? I don't think Soviet gaming, you really do have one. And I don't think you should be advertising that on here in case anybody takes you seriously. The M2000 is much better than the Yugo M1. Again, the Yugo M1 is just a not very good copy of the American M9A1. And the Stalker series, I already answered you. Yes, I do play it. Do I still get deactivated start firearms? I haven't bought any deact firearms in a while, just because a lot of them are silly prices now. And again, annoyingly, any of them I've got, I can do a video normally on YouTube. I can't get them out and show them on the stream because I've got some right here next to me. But if I get them out on a live stream, YouTube shuts down the live stream and may give me a strike because they think I'm either going to delete myself with a firearm if one shows up on the stream, or I'm going to go and take it out to a public event and, you know, give other people the fun of enjoying a firearm. So sadly, because of YouTube's shitty policy things to that now, I can't ever show you them on a live stream because it risks my channel. No, I don't have a DIAC or airsoft or any sort of AK-74U. I've got an East German AKM, and I've also got an RPK, a Yugoslav M72 RPK, but I don't have an AK-74 at all. Yeah, Sam, they could have used that rubber not to put the stupid hood all around the face. They could have, yes, done an oral nasal cup with it, which would have been a better use of the rubber, but no, they didn't do that. Out of the military ones I've worn, the Polish mop suit that's in their woodland camo, is that the Fu one, is the best one, as in it's comfortable and all that sort of stuff. You know, it feels more durable than the British Army one. Out of all of the mop suits and that I've used, my favourite one is still my Armed Police Britannica NBC suit, the Remploy one or whatever, just because, again, it's built to a much better standard than a lot of military ones, but it's because it's for police use, not military use, and they probably have higher budget per, you know, like officers' personal protective gear than militaries do. Because that's the funny thing with a lot of army stuff. Sometimes it's not good quality equipment because they have to budget, you know, for every soldier in the military with, you know, one bit of each bit of equipment, where some other government institutions often have way better gear because they're spending a lot more per head on equipment. Which particular German jacket? I've got more than one German jacket. I've got an East German greatcoat. I've got some various German kind of like camo jacket type things. I've got a Flecktarn raincoat. PMK4s you can get if you know somebody that can smuggle one out of Russia wrote. The PMK-S is better than the PMK4 though, because Hype has both. And he says some of the modern PMK4s don't take normal GOST filters anymore. Like Russia changed the filter for them. So unless you get the filter specifically for the PMK4, you can't use them, essentially. Like, you know, old Soviet filters don't fit, Chinese filters don't fit. So get a PMK-S because they're actually regular GOST, not Are you sure it was a pewter and not a actual proper what you call it, like the mask they're a rip-off of? Because the pewter is a rip-off of it's either a Spaziani mask or a Draeger Simplex, or whatever they're called. So again, you can't really tell unless you see the mask up close and handle it. Because a lot of the Chinese ones in a picture look pretty much one-to-one to the masks they're ripping off. It's just, you know, you can't tell until you handle them. Yeah, Kyle, what country are you in? Because if you're in the US, the AliExpress stuff I recommend you can't buy because of Trump. If you're anywhere other than the US, I've done some videos recently on some good Chinese masks that I've got an AliExpress affiliate link to. If you're in the US, I have to think of something else. West German parka. I don't know. Oh, the West German one that's in like the old World War II style camo. It's actually in that cupboard there, but I can't easily get to it to show it you. But yeah, it's literally hanging up in that wardrobe over there. USA. Oh, okay. Can you maybe buy an ex-US police, the version they have? Let me try and look up the number of it, because I've done a video on these, and I bought mine, I think it was from Commando Store. So let me search Commando Store, because they're based in the US, and I actually bought one of these from the US to... So yeah, they have the SGEs, which other people are saying is good. I'm assuming Commando Store is showing me prices in pounds because they have a localized thing for the UK. But I thought Commando Store was in the US. But at one point, they had some Scott masks that are pretty good. The ones that the Finnish army use, but they have a different number designation without the drinking tube for the US. Sam, yeah, basically anything I get my hands on, I review. eBay for lots of army surplus stuff or stuff that's stolen from militaries and sold on. AliExpress for pretty much brand new Chinese stuff. Other surplus style stores, whatever else. Often it's knowing the right people if you're looking for something more specific, because sometimes somebody in a certain country can then buy for you and sell you something, you know, like pass you on the cost and get you something shipped. Because like I've got stuff out of Russia that way before, prior to the war. And after the war, I know Hype can still buy from Russia and then sell to people. But it's not a German World War, like it's not a German one in that sense. It's one of the ones done by Miltech or whatever, so it's like a copy of it. I've not got any US canteens and never bothered, no. I've got like the old green plastic Vietnam era canteen that always tasted a weird plastic taste. Oh yeah, I've heard people recommending that, but I haven't got around to watching it. But yeah, Commando Store anyway, I can actually link you up right on here right now, because if Commando Store, if this comes up with prices in dollars for you, and they are actually US based, like I think they are anyway, then Commando Store, if this is the one, yeah. They've got the SGEs, which are apparently good, but I've not used them. The MSA Millenniums, if they've not aged badly, are good masks. They've got the Russian GP21s, which annoyingly I think you only work with Ghost filters, so I wouldn't recommend those because then you're gonna have to struggle to get the filter. Let me just Google US surplus stores, just so I can find stuff that might be relevant for you. Coleman's military surplus. Because again, I don't want the sites that are like UK based selling US surplus. I want the ones where I can actually see what you can buy in the US. All right, this site is in dollars. So Coleman's military surplus. Let's see if they do gas masks. They have an Israeli M15 for $100, which isn't stupid in today's money. Their other masks are priced at what you'd expect. So this particular mask that they've got in stock, there you go. This I actually think is a very good mask, but bear in mind that years ago you used to be able to get them cheaper than this, but this isn't a bad mask at all, the M15. This actually looks like a more modern M15 than mine, because it looks like it's got a different like side bit to it. I'm just, again, the picture's quite small, so I can't see. Yeah, it's cool. It's got like an extra voice diaphragm, like a radio clip-on bit. So yeah, that's a fairly modern M15. Because my M15, because it's a much older one, didn't have that. It's just got the big voice diaphragm on the front and the filter port at the bottom, and like the drinking tube connector. But yeah, that's actually pretty cool, that one. It's a bit like the S10 side, like radio connector system. So yeah, maybe that, I don't know. But like I said, the problem is I can't look for stuff in the US easily, because a lot of the time it goes, oh, you're not in the US. We have a UK store or whatever. It's like, no, I don't want that. And Manlittopia says the best way to get surplus in the US is eBay. Again, like the annoying thing is if I look on US eBay, it keeps saying, oh, this person won't ship to the UK or it changes the prices. I suppose I could use a VPN. That's a lot of effort. Yeah, so you could get an M40. You could probably get US police trade-in masks as well, as in like that version of the Scott mask I got from Commando Store that was in the US, and you know still was cheaper than buying the Finnish surplus ones. The Scott M100 or whatever it was, that was the US police forces like trading masks. Certain US police forces use the FM12 or the C50 or whatever. So again, you can probably do a similar thing with the UK police surplus in the US, that you can probably find different state polices that use all different equipment, and then some of it is probably sold on eBay rather than just being binned. So yeah. I did actually have an FS knife out at the beginning of the stream. There you go. If you asked me that another day, I wouldn't have been able to show you, but I cleared up my desk to put some mounts to make my monitor a better height. So I found this where it was on my desk. So yeah, There you go. That's a modern Sheffield made FS, like third pattern or whatever it is, copy. But these are made to like the actual license or whatever. All right, Peach. So these aren't like where you can sometimes find really cheap and nasty FS knockoffs. This is the one that like for a while did have the contract to make them. But it's not a World War II one. It's like a modern made one. But because the World War II one's like 4 times the price, you know, and they're not in as good condition. But yeah, if you wanted a knife just for doing horrible things to people, we won't say too much more because it's YouTube. An FS is one of the best bets, along with a lot of old like military bayonets and that, because they're designed specifically for sticking in people, not for like, you know, prying stuff open or whatever. These knives, these were specifically built to kill people. That was their one job. They're like they're called fighting knives. The US has a very similar like stiletto dagger thing that's like their version of the FS that, you know, like the US bought a load of FS knives and they built their own. Yeah, oh, very cool. But yeah, the Wilkinson sword one, that's very nice, yeah. Sadly, Wilkinson, I think, is a company as well that's dead now, that, you know, used to be another British manufacturer that doesn't exist anymore. Can I recreate the voice of Donald Trump? I don't know if this is a good Trump voice. I make the best tariffs. No one does tariffs like me. The tariffs are so great that you're not going to get as many dolls this year for Christmas. Bigly, I got a new plane from Qatar. Lots of bling in it. I took a bribe of a plane. And for anybody wondering, I'm not even a pro-Democrat person when it comes to US politics. I try and avoid it. Trump in his first term I did find quite funny, and I didn't genuinely mind him. Trump in his second term is doing more harm than good to America because he's alienating a lot of America's allies. So a lot of us now are saying, yeah, kind of don't want to deal with America anymore. You know, not as much. We don't think we can trust America. And that's really damaging to stuff like NATO, because it means a lot of those countries now are, you know, thinking about getting nuclear weapons, like Poland and, you know, some of the other European countries that previously had the US, you know, nuke umbrella over them, which was the US's idea at the time to stop people proliferating nuclear weapons. Now that a lot of these countries don't think the US would actually help them if Russia invaded, they're saying, yeah, we want our own nukes now. So, you know, that's what's happened because of that. I don't know what you mean by making a commercial about me, but I guess go ahead if you want. You know, why not? Yeah, again, lots of old, rondel daggers, bollock daggers all have that shape, medieval daggers and like stilettos, because again, it's just a good shape for stabbing people. Yeah, because lots of stuff, Sam, that was sold as like the surplus before the war and was dirt cheap, is now either being used because the nations involved, Russia and Ukraine, are desperate for like reservist type troops to at least have some of this surplus. Like the steel pots are actually being used by Russia now because they ran out of Kevlar helmets a long time ago. And you're lucky if you get a fucking steel pot as a Russian now, because so many of them get fucking airsoft helmets, you know, that offer them no protection whatsoever. But yeah, lots of it either got basically reused by Ukraine or Russia because they ran out of good equipment or needed it for their reserves, or people are saying it's stuff captured from the war and trying to sell it for 10 times the price, or because the supply is lower, people are just selling it for way more than it costs anyway. So things like Soviet SSH-60, whatever helmets they are, like the Soviet steel pot for most of the Cold War, they're silly money now than they used to be. Well, you can watch some more, Josh, if you like. Yeah, airs all over America. Air comes in, we're all taking the air, but what does air buy from us? Nothing. I'm going to tariff the air. Yeah, J.D. Vance doesn't seem to like Europe very much. Well, J.D. Vance didn't used to like Trump. He said Trump was like Hitler. And then when Trump gave him the offer of the vice presidency, he said, oh, yes, please, Mr. Trump. How much shall I suck your dick, Mr. Trump? You know, I'll take lots of loads in my mouth for you, Mr. Trump. So he sold out all his principles of power. I'm not saying lots of other people wouldn't do it if they were given the same chances. I'm just saying that, you know, his word means nothing if as soon as he gets power or money from it, he changes his opinion, and they're not very good opinions. Anyway, I'll go off in a minute because I've been on over an hour now. My throat's getting a bit dry. My cup of tea's gone cold, which I've not even drank because I've been talking all the time, not drinking my cup of tea. Yeah, well, Sam, the British helmet I was showing the other day, because that's the same as, like, I've got the modern British Army helmet, which is the same as the current US helmet. It's got, like, slightly different, like, rigging in it, but we bought the license or whatever from the US for those helmets. They're better than anything Russia is fielding for sure, because they're actually ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, which is better than Kevlar. It has more back face deformation than Kevlar, but, you know, it's more likely to save your life. I've got a few plate carriers and that. Again, radios, like we said, a lot of Russians were ending up just using fucking radios like these, weren't they? At the beginning of the war, they had Baofengs and whatever, not proper radios. So that's why people could listen into them. See if we get some more chatter on this in a minute. What is a Soviet commander voice? What do you just mean with Russian voice? I'll get two. Yeah, still listening to stuff on radios like this, but not proper encrypted military or police radios, but you can listen into like this. Then an airfield near me, I'm listening into with that. But I'll get 2 number 9, a large Coke, extra dip with 2 French fries. Is that what you meant? Oh, you can't find DP5s anymore. That's a shame. Yeah, again, the thing is with some of those is sometimes you can still get them from some of the Eastern Euro countries that had Soviet stockpiles in them. But yeah, like surplus dries up anyway, and the war in Ukraine has really, really accelerated that. And it also means some people, you know, I think it's better now than it was in the first year of the war. But like buying from Western Ukraine can sometimes mean that like stuff is hard to get. But apparently the Ukraine Postal Service still does work quite well, so there's that. But yeah, in terms of before I go off, yeah, the equipment, Ruskies, the Ukrainians have quite a mix of equipment because they obviously have a lot of donated equipment, as well as like their own domestic stuff. But one of the things Britain has now been supplying Ukraine with is gas masks, because Russia is using chemical weapons in Ukraine for the last year or so. And Ukraine only really had not very many modern gas masks. They mostly just had the old Soviet shit with the old Soviet era filters, which meant a lot of it is expired or completely worthless, you know, because the masks are cracked or damaged and the filters have long since dried out. So yeah, Britain has apparently spent quite a lot of money now to get them. We don't know what the masks are. It'd be quite interesting seeing what masks we're going to ship them. Maybe they're FM12s, maybe they're GSRs, I don't know. But I'd be quite interested in seeing what masks Britain supplies to Ukraine. Right, I'll say it once more before I go off. I'll get 2 number 9, a large Coke, extra dip with 2 French fries. Suka. But yeah, I actually have the Russian homoerotic vest on today as well, because it was warm weather. And this is probably too small for me, but I reckon the Russians like it for that reason. But yeah, I can't wear this now and not think that it's some sort of, yes, I like to take it up my ass, because of all of the videos I've seen of Russian soldiers who are totally very masculine. And again, like I said, I have nothing against actual normal gay people, but I hate the gay people, which is why I fuck men up the ass. But yeah, the sheer amount of videos I've seen of Mobics raping other Mobics and, you know, sucking dick, and now the ones where they're having to fight each other to death in fucking blood sports for their commander's amusement, because the Russian army is such a fucking barbaric shit show now. Like I said, because the thing is with Russia, like I said, I don't actually hate Russian people, but anybody of merit now has fled Russia. You know, smart people have fled Russia. People that were professional soldiers in the Russian army before are either dead or have fled Russia when they saw like Bucha and all the other horrible stuff their country was doing. So the people left in Russia now are either the people too poor to afford to get out, or the people that are Z-waving dickheads that are like, oh yeah, I love fucking invading, raping and murdering civilians. Aren't we great? You know, like I said, the modern Russia to me is a fucking, like, you know, clown show. I actually, Sam, have done, knowing it might not let me show your, it might not, actually let me show that, because I'm on PC, not mobile. But yeah, I actually did a Mad Ivan sort of I'm just going off Dreadnought thing in what was it? Sora, was it? Like Mad Ivan, I guess you could have Mad Maxim or something like that as well, but Mad Vlad maybe. But because where you keep seeing them with all their fucking larders on the front line now with random shit strapped to them like coke cages and shit like that, they are literally becoming the Blizzards from Fury Road. And the Blizzards do speak Russian in Fury Road as well, which is funny. So, you know, they are descending to the level of people in scrap cars that probably are going to be cannibals soon because they have no rations. But yeah, anyway, I will be off now because, like I said, I've been on longer than I was planning and my throat's dry. And otherwise, I'm going to keep talking to random people as they come and leave the chat. So don't forget to like the stream before you go off if you haven't liked the stream so far. Metro 2033 would definitely be this on with like a PMK or like a GP9 or whatever. But yeah, don't forget to like the stream on your way out. Thank you, because it might help my channel being shared again. YouTube does seem to be sharing my stuff a bit more now again. So it means that when I do videos, they do seem to get more people watching them, because there is nothing more frustrating than, especially not with the shorts, but if I do a video of my proper camcorder, spend ages editing it, ages uploading it because I've got shit internet, and then YouTube doesn't share that fucking video, that is a pain in the fucking ass. Thank you, it is a nice helmet. Although, yeah, this is actually a genuine World War II one, where a lot of my helmets aren't World War II, but yeah. Yeah, because again, YouTube's fucking feed stuff is really bloody annoying, because YouTube's feed is very, very much most clickbait stuff possible, because a lot of YouTube stuff is basically this, I guess, TikTok content now. They seem to promote lots of shorts that often are AI slop. At least to me, this is what I get shoved in my feed a lot. AI slop stuff, or somebody reacting to something they saw on Reddit or reacting to another video. It's not actual content. Again, dead internet theory, but you know. Anyway, I'm going off because otherwise I'm never going to leave. Have a good day, everybody. And I should hopefully do a stream tomorrow if I don't get a regular video done. I'll probably stream about 5 PM UK time again. Brain rot and AI slop, yes.